name and DOC number.
Traci Beaucoudray, 625061.
Okay, and counsel, would you introduce yourself for the record?
Eric Johnson, 415 Main Street, Minden, Louisiana. Good to see you, Mr. Renanza.
Nice to see you, Mr. Johnson. And so for the benefit of everybody who's participating, I'll just explain how the process will work this morning. I'll read some identifying information into the record. I'll ask Ms. Beaucoudray to verify that information, and then we'll conduct a parole interview with you. All of us will be able, all the panel members will be able to ask her questions. We'll hear from Ms. Carla, who's indicated she'd like to speak. And then I'll turn it over to Mr. Johnson for his presentation. And Traci will be allowed to make a statement if she'd like before we reach a decision. And of course, we'll ask for the institution's input as well. So let's see, let me get to my page. Traci, you're here. This is a rehearing for you. You were initially heard May 9th, 2018. And actually it was the same parole committee, was it not? All three of us participated in that initial hearing. You were denied at that time, and the reasons for denial were law enforcement and judicial objection, minor victim over several years, strong victim opposition. So for the record, you're classified as a first felony offender. You were sentenced August 4th, 2014 for indecent behavior by a juvenile. You received a 7-year sentence, and also attempted computer-aided solicitation. You received a 5-year sentence. All that's concurrent, so it's a total of 7 years DOC time. Your parole eligibility was December 3rd, 2016. You don't earn good time, so your full term date is August 3rd, 2021. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so because of the COVID, we initially were conducting interviews. A single panel member would interview the offender in the local facility by telephone and then present the findings on that interview to the parole committee on the day of the hearing. And so I interviewed Traci in July 16th of 2020. She and I had a lengthy interview, and I have prepared a written report, which I've already provided to my colleagues in advance of today's hearing, which I know we've been in. This is extended. Your hearing has been extended, I believe, at least twice.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm glad you're here today. So I'm going to go ahead and turn over the interview to Mr. Roche for his questions.
Good morning, Ms. Beaucoudray. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Johnson. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing, Mr. Rocha?
Great. As Ms. Renanza said before, this is the same panel that heard you in 2018. It's also the same panel that voted to give you a rehearing in April of this year. Because we saw that you had no disciplinary write-ups. We saw that you were making progress in the sex offender treatment, and you had a low risk assessment score. So we three decided to give you another hearing. It just so happened today we are sitting on the panel by chance. So first of all, I'd like you to give us a progress report on your sex offender treatment. How's it going?
I have actually finished the class. It's divided into 4 phases. And the first 2 phases we were able to do in class. The 3rd phase was a correspondence class because of COVID. And then the 4th phase was final also. It's a teaching phase. So I've been staying on progress and, using my risk factors and utilizing everything that I can to keep from reoffending.
Great. And how long did you facilitate the program?
I was in it for a year.
Okay. How long did you facilitate the program in 4th phase?
It was a 90-day rotation, so about 90 days.
Good. All right. So tell me about some other programs that you've taken since May of 2018.
Okay. Well, right now I am involved in a computer coding class. It's called IC3. It is a certification for Microsoft, all Microsoft programs, and it eventually leads into the computer coding aspect. I'm almost finished with that. I'm also involved in it's kind of like a therapy group with Dr. Wheeler and Dr. Hanser from DOC. It's with sex offenders. We meet once a week. I have participated in the prison fellowship program. It was a pilot program set up through the governor. The women's facility was the first place that it happened. And it was a year-long program. And then we also had an art therapy program that had started through prison fellowship also, but had been suspended because of COVID.
Okay. So right now you served about 6 years and 2 or 3 months on your 7-year sentence. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Are there any other good time classes like anger management, thinking for a change, victim awareness, any other classes?
I've done Celebrate Recovery, and but I don't qualify for thinking for a change.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and I've completed reentry also. I'm sorry.
Okay. 100 hours pre-release.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me what your responsibilities in your job assignment at Louisiana Transition.
I am the master lead tutor for the adult education program. I've been involved with the adult ed program for the past 5 years. I have successfully helped many women obtain their high set diploma. And I also do various other things in the build-in for Miss April. I work with her, I work with Dr. Wheeler. I can do pretty much anything secretarial that they need me to do.
Okay, great. About your transition plan, where do you plan to live and where do you plan to work?
I hope to go home to my mom in Slidell. She's by herself right now since my father passed away from COVID in March. I've been offered a job at Operation Restoration in New Orleans, Louisiana. It is a kind of like a rehabilitation service for formerly incarcerated women. They have asked me to help with their adult education program there.
Great. Have you submitted your mother's address to probation and parole?
Yes, sir.
Has it been approved?
It hasn't. They haven't told me if it's been approved, but they haven't told me it's been denied either. So.
Okay, because there are a lot of stipulations and a lot of requirements because you will be a registered sex offender, and it has to be vetted very carefully.
Yes, sir.
So that's probably why it's taken a little longer than usual.
Okay.
Now, tell me this morning, Ms. Beaucoudray, why should this panel vote to release you early from your sentence this morning?
I would like to be given a second opportunity to make positive choices in society. You know, people make mistakes and you learn from those mistakes and you deal with those mistakes. And you can only hope that after you learn that you can go back and go back into the world and do productive things and be a productive citizen and be worthy of not always having to have the stigma of being a convicted felon. I'd like to prove myself differently.
Now, Ms. Beaucoudray, and I don't know whether you would agree with me or not, but everyone's afforded mistakes. But a teacher who the population entrusts with their children And I can't think of another profession that a parent relies upon more than any other occupation, maybe except the clergy. They put their children in your care for 7-8 hours a day, and they expect that child to be treated as such that he will be protected and that he will increase in knowledge over a period of 8 to 10 years and become a productive citizen himself. So I think you are held to higher standard because you are a teacher.
Yes, sir.
Would you agree?
Yes, sir.
Let me tell you, and I'm going to enter this information into the record. You have expressed opposition, very strong opposition from the DA's office. You have very strong opposition from the sheriff's office and the chief of police. And you have adamant opposition from the victim's family. And I just want to give you some idea what kind of opposition that is. 1 second. And I can't really get to it, but let me tell you, I can sort of remember. You have opposition from the victim's mother, Carla. You have opposition from the victim's father, Tim. You have opposition from the victim's aunt, Ms. Perez. You have opposition from 2 or 3 other aunts. There is total opposition to you being released on an early without fulfilling your full sentence because of the gravity of the offense against a student. So you have all that weighing against you on the scale. Madam Chairman, that completes my interview.
Thank you, Mr. O'Shea. Ms. Wise?
Good morning. How you doing, Tracy?
Good morning.
You doing all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. When the court, your mother wrote a letter. She said that you had helped over 200 ladies receive their high set certification.
Yes, ma'am.
You were kind of bashful about how much work you've done. I just wanted that on the record. Job well done.
Thank you.
That's really good. In terms of the sex offender treatment, you said y'all reviewed the risk factors. So what are your risk factors?
My big risk factors. I think a lot of people would say that my biggest risk factor is probably manipulation and grooming, actually.
Okay.
I don't fit the I'm sorry. I don't fit the substance abuse criteria or anything like that. I don't have a problem with substance abuse, but
Okay.
okay.
That's why I was just curious to know what were your findings based on what they taught you.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to commend you for being able to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
All right. That's all I had, Chairman.
Madam Chairman, may I have another bite at the apple, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. O'Shea?
I forgot to recognize that I received Mr. Johnson's package. There was some 18 to 19 letters of support for Ms. Beaucoudray. There was a number of certificates, a number of grade reports from, I think, Blackstone, and it was a very impressive package that was submitted by Attorney Johnson on behalf of Ms. Beaucoudray.
Thank you, Mr. O'Shea. So I just have a couple of questions, Tracy, just to follow up with our previous discussion and just to share some of the notes that I took with my colleagues. You did say during our discussion that you completed Celebrate Recovery, and you said you claimed you didn't have a substance abuse problem. So I asked you, what did you get out of that program? And you kind of acknowledged that just a moment ago to Miss Wise. But one of the things you said, it was kind of based on the Bible and the Beatitudes, and that what you learned about yourself is your addiction was that you like to control things.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I just wanted to put that on the record, that you did acknowledge that. My question of you is, when you and I spoke, you were in phase 3, I believe it was, or had just completed phase 3 of the sex offender treatment. And you said you finished that in May
Yes,
of this year.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
my question is, you've been in jail since, well, 6 years at least. What took you so long to enroll in that program?
They didn't have it. They didn't have it at
Have
LTCW
it?
at all. When I met with y'all in May of 2018, the program wasn't even available. And I believe
Okay.
the gentleman asked me why I hadn't taken it then. With the help of my mom and Miss April, they got it together, and we got it at LTCW.
Good.
And so it's here. COVID's kind of messing it all up, but it's here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good. So have you had any victim awareness training?
I've read the book. I've kind of done it on my own. As far as participating in the actual class, no, ma'am.
Okay. So tell me what you think the impact is on the victim or victims.
I let them down. I mean, I let my victim down. I let her family down. I crossed boundaries that it should have never been crossed, and it's changed, I'm sure, their life. You know, having to deal with things and being pulled in different directions and not necessarily understanding what, you know, there's a lack of trust. There's the lack of trust and the lack of stability, and you know, their family unit was broken, and it was essentially because of me. And all I can do is continue to ask for forgiveness, and hope that one day they will be able to forgive me.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. I don't have any other questions. Could we hear from Ms. Daughtry? I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. There you go.
Yeah, you got it right. That was said perfectly. I am the victim's mother. My daughter was a teenager when all this started happening, and we found out about it. There's no dispute that Ms. Beaucoudray was a teacher, I think for many years at the Guillot High School in St. Tammany Parish, but she was also their dance instructor, their dance teacher, and being around all these kids, girls and boys, she had opportunity to groom them, manipulate them, and be around them. There was always a flock of kids all around her, inside of work, in school, and outside in the public. That's when it all started to kind of take place, where we, you know, were looking at things. She was 24/7 with my daughter as far as communicating, stalking. She sat underneath the windowsill by her bedroom. She's also written numerous texts and emails, stories of where she's got my daughter calling her the mother, and that her parents are only her biological family. So a lot of grooming, manipulation, and just a child predator, not only for my daughter, but there were others that the sex crime division found treasure boxes in her house with all the goodies that she's collected for them. And it's great. She's going to classes. I understand that. That's wonderful. But that does not change what she has done. let down us as a family, let down the victim, cross boundaries. By far did that at the most. And she was asked several times to stay away from her. And she just never did. I came to you guys at the last parole hearing, and I stand firm today to say she needs to serve her time. The judge gave her leeway on her years of the conviction, and she needs to stay the full entire time. I don't really wish to see her come out in our area. I get that she's got her mother here. She's also got family out of state. I have a sense of an uneasy feeling with her coming into the community and being around our areas and so forth. What she did was immoral things, molestation. She's into computers now. Y'all saying she's going to all kind of computer classes and so forth. That's what got her in trouble in the first place. All that computer stuff, sending pictures of naked parts of men to my daughter, having my daughter take pictures of herself to send it over. That is sickening. That is somebody who, I don't care what kind of rehabilitation she thinks she's getting, a person does not change. And I ask you as a parole board to please stand up and uphold that and let her serve her time to remain this another almost year, not quite a year. She is a sex offender, she is a predator, and she needs to serve the full sentence of her time. And, I know life goes on. We're trying on our hardest to move on, but those scars will always be there. That is just something in life that just cannot be removed. That is something that'll be in your memory forever. And I know it affects my daughter greatly. I think that's all I can say. Thank you. I just hope y'all hear what we have to say. We've uncovered quite a bit of information during that time before the judge did his sentencing, and it was appalling about what we knew and what we found, and then what the sex offender office and the police officers found during the investigation.
Thank you, Ms. Dotry. We appreciate your input. Miss April, is there anything you want to add?
Morning.
Good morning.
Just that, she has worked in the program building. She has done well. She took the classes that she qualified for. You asked about thinking for a change. She didn't qualify for it because of the low risk score. Those are managed by the risk scores, and she didn't qualify for that.
Okay.
Has been no problem, no write-ups, no issues. Scared to death to get in trouble. So absolutely no problems.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Johnson, I'll turn it over to you, sir. Yes, you need to unmute your microphone if you can.
Thank you, Ms. Renata. As y'all are undoubtedly aware, DOC's mission statement is twofold: to punish offenders and to attempt to rehabilitate them and get them prepared to reenter society. There's no excuse whatsoever for what Ms. Beaucoudray did or the crimes that she committed and she was convicted of in St. Tammany, and she was sentenced by the judge for committing. However, after reporting to prison and being incarcerated, she has done everything humanly possible to better herself. She's taken every course, every class available to her. And not only that, she has gone out of her way and above and beyond what I've frankly ever seen any inmate do. And I've been doing this 28 years this year. I've never seen an inmate go to an extent of trying to help other inmates she's incarcerated with. Again, 125, I believe, at last count, inmates that she helped receive a high set diploma. You have a letter from a Jody Lambert that is in the materials that I submitted to the board, where she goes on at length about the positive impact that Ms. Beaucoudray made upon her as she tutored her in math, which she had serious issues and problems with, and helped her. And the other inmates, again, well over 100 that she's helped get a diploma, and she's made a positive impact in their lives that will, obviously take them forward after their release from incarceration. She is very bright, very intelligent woman. And I have no doubt that, she's been punished as much as an inmate that, again, I've represented in these kind of proceedings before, has been punished for her criminal acts. In March of this year, her father died of COVID. She was unable to see him, speak with him, have any contact whatsoever with him. Not only that, unable to comfort her mom, who also was unable to be with her husband and Tracy's father at the time he died. And I feel the utmost sympathy for the victims in this case, for Ms. Beaucoudray, and I understand her position. However, she made a statement which I disagree with, which is that she said people don't change. I think the entire mission statement of Department of Corrections is that inmates can make positive changes in their lives, and they can change their behavior patterns. And again, she has done everything humanly possible toward that end. You have a letter in the material from an employee at LTCW, Linda Carr, which again touts the accomplishments of Ms. Beaucoudray since she's been at LTCW. Again, states that she has helped over 125 students get their high set diplomas, that she's taken every, and I quote her letter, during her incarceration, Tracy has taken every opportunity towards self-rehabilitation. She's completed all courses required. She's literally done everything that she could possibly do to rehabilitate herself and better herself as an inmate in the DOC system and as a member of society coming out. I believe in May of 2018, part of the reason that the board denied her parole was that she had not taken and completed the sex offender course at that time. And of course, she's done that subsequently. I think she finished it since I met Tracy back over the summer. They had to suspend the course. She'd gone through phase 3 at that time and was unable to complete phase 4 because of COVID, but I think she's since completed phase 4 of that program. She has a residence with her mom, which I think is, and there are also letters which are part of that package from family members other than her mother, which show that she's going to have a very supportive family network available to her and a support network available to her in the event she's released. She also is very interested in working with Operation Restoration at Tulane University, which helps individuals like her who have been incarcerated and are being released into society adapt to coming back into society. And I believe that she would be a great asset to that program as well. I do not believe, I think Dr. Wheeler, I want to say that, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Renata, that when you were performing your investigation, I believe you spoke with Dr. Wheeler. Do you recall that? I think, and what I recall from the conversation that as it was related to me was that Dr. Wheeler had stated to you during the investigation that she did not believe that if released, Ms. Beaucoudray would reoffend or return to the type of conduct that got her where she is. Of course, there's no guarantee of anything in life, and I guess if the parole board wanted to guarantee that someone like Ms. Beaucoudray wasn't going to get released on parole and reoffend, you'd have to deny everybody parole. And of course, that's, as y'all know, that's counterproductive to the goal of the parole board. Your job, which I know all of y'all understand well, is to look at these applications and the people that you're considering releasing back into society early through parole, and decide if they're worthy of that. And I can honestly say, again, 28 years of doing this and having probably represented over 100 people in parole board proceedings, I don't recall representing anyone that has assimilated the kind of record during her incarceration and period of incarceration as Ms. Beaucoudray has. I think she certainly, I believe, earned the right to have the opportunity to prove to the parole board and to society and to Ms. Daltreve and her victims that she understands what she did was terribly wrong. Again, she violated a fiduciary trust of teacher and student, and that, as Mr. Roger understands, he is a teacher, professor, very fine one. No excuse whatsoever for that, and I don't defend that here this morning. However, she certainly was punished, I believe, by the judge who imposed sentence in these cases, and she took that punishment and again has had no write-ups whatsoever, not a single write-up since she's been locked up or incarcerated, and has taken every opportunity to better herself and has gone above and beyond helping others in the system who I think appreciate the help she gave them and had benefited from that help. And I think she's probably made a positive influence and again, probably a couple of hundred people's lives, inmates, who hopefully will take the training and the high set diploma she helped them achieve and again, make themselves productive members of society when they get released back into it. And I would ask that the board grant her application. I think that she's going to make the members of the board proud of her when she's released with what she will do when she's released. I think she's a young woman. She's got a lot of life ahead of her. And I think she can continue to help people through. She can never teach school again. That's another punishment that she received. This is what she enjoyed doing. She can never do that again. But she can help people like herself who've been incarcerated through Operation Restoration, which is a very good program run by Tulane University. And my daughter actually started as a freshman there this semester, and I wouldn't mind seeing her participate in that when she is looking for an internship or some type of community service to perform in the university. I think it's a great program. I think Ms. Beaucoudray would be a great asset to it. I think her mother, Pam, is going to be there with her every step of the way if she's released, along with her other friends and family who also will provide that support network to her to help her transition from inmate back into productive member of society. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Tracy, is there a brief statement you'd like to make before we vote?
I think I just would like to, again, apologize to the Dautrives for everything that I've done to hurt them. I hope and pray that the board will allow me to have that second chance. I really just want to go be with my mom and work and grieve my dad. And I hope that y'all will allow that opportunity.
All right, thank you. Is the panel prepared to vote?
Yes.
I recommend executive session to discuss confidential matters related to this case.
All right, we have a motion for executive session. Could we have a roll call vote, Teresa? Or Ray?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roger,
Yes.
Ms. Renazzo,
Yes.
Ms. Pearl.
Yes.
So we'll be in executive session for a few moments to discuss confidential matters. We'll be right back.
Oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever hated an attorney so much. I mean, we have seen pretty bad attorneys go on a rumble, but the complete disrespect and to go on rambling and rambling and rambling so that he could hear the sound of his own voice was pathetic. Are you forgetting that we're talking about a middle school teacher that was doing this to her underage students, in this case, an ex-student, but it's unbelievable. And the attorney, no, Mr. Attorney, you are very wrong. The system was not created to do two things, to punish and to rehabilitate. It was to do three things: to punish, rehabilitate, and protect. To protect society from predators like this. Gosh. I mean, maybe his tactic was just to ramble on so long that everyone forget the beautiful statement that the victim's mother made. Oh, gosh, I hope they deny. What judge gives 7 years to a teacher? Like Mr. O'Shea said, maybe two people, a teacher and a clergy, that we need to trust. How do you punish a teacher for 7 years and then you go on saying, "Oh, well, she's so great. She took programs." She helped over 200 ladies, tutoring them get their high set. They don't even see the irony in that. They don't see the irony in her computer programs either. Part of her charges was using a smartphone. She had in her house treasure boxes full of candy. How sick is that? I'm sorry, but if this was a man, he might have gotten at least 7 years instead of just 6. I'm sure you get my sarcasm, because sadly we have seen teachers who don't get that much time either. Male teachers who got their students pregnant who don't get that much time, frankly. So the system is just broken. And she has a low risk score. Wow, who would have thought? She has a low risk score. Oh man. Yeah, she's definitely low risk to offend another broken part of the system that will just never change. He even said, I think he said something about how his daughter's going to university and there's a tutoring program. Did I might have misheard it, because it really just sounded like noise after a little while. But did he suggest that this tutor, that this cockroach go to the university to help tutor people? Are you mad? I get that she's paying you money to represent her, but don't be dumb. Don't be naive. Don't deny the fact that this was a teacher. He was going on and on saying the most ridiculous things. Sorry, but I just couldn't. Had to get out that off my chest. They better deny. They better deny. I can't even. Well, it's actually quite a little while this way. Let's see. What do you think they're gonna do? Yeah, this took October. And thank you again, Richard, Richard does all the hard work to find the hearings that he thinks we should cover. And I agree with his choices.
All right, I think everybody's back in. We're back in regular session. It's 11:19. And we are prepared to vote. Tracy, I'm gonna, since I did the interview with you back in July, I'm gonna go first. I have a lot of concerns about you.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have a lot of concerns about you, particularly by your own admission, your addiction to control, control issues. And just to listen to I still think you're struggling with that. I still think that's an issue for you.
Yes, ma'am.
But to deny your parole means that you would get out on your full term date in August of next year, and I couldn't add any special conditions to the supervision terms. Now, when you and I spoke on the phone, you mentioned you had a sister in Maryland.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a possible residence plan for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My vote today would be to grant your parole to a Maryland residence plan, which
Okay.
there's some work that's involved in that. You know, you got to apply for interstate compact, et cetera, et cetera. I would also add special conditions for the duration of your supervision, that you have a GPS monitoring, that you have no access to the internet, that you have no contact with juveniles, that you have, of course, no contact with the victims or the victims' families, and that you submit yourself for a mental health evaluation and adhere to any treatment plan that's recommended if there is one.
Yes, ma'am.
That's my vote.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Roche?
Ms. Beaucoudray, you have done everything within your power to do as much as you could to rehabilitate yourself. And you should be commended for that. But you must remember, in the parole process, you're not the only individual that's afforded input into the system. We have victim opposition, and that victim opposition is adamant throughout the Beaucoudray family. The mother, the father, the aunts, and all of the other relatives that voiced their opinion about this case. We have law enforcement opposition. And there's very strong opposition from that law enforcement, the DA's office. But I too would like to see some conditions placed on you upon your release. If I had my way, really, I would deny you today simply because I think you deserve to serve your whole 7-year sentence. But I'd like to see you away from that environment. It's only been 7 years, and students pass on information. And this information is probably spread throughout the school in the last 7 years. And students will know exactly who you are, and they weren't even enrolled in school at that time. So I'm going to agree with Ms. Renaza simply because you need some conditions. You don't need to use the computer. You don't need to be in contact with juveniles. You don't need to be in the environment in Slidell, Louisiana. You need to be away from that environment. Hopefully you'll get to Maryland. You'll find a niche. You'll find a job. And you'll find a life without tampering with the little ones in God's kingdom. So my vote is going to be the same as Ms. Renaza, with the same conditions. And hopefully, you will not affect another juvenile's life in your lifetime. Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Ms. Wise?
Miss Tracy, when somebody asks you why you should be released, you said people make mistakes and you learn. That struck me because you were still out there talking about people. You didn't say I make mistakes. I learned. That's concerning for me. Then your attorney said you are a very bright woman. So you are a very bright woman. As Ms. Renato said, you still have some unfinished work. You're not completely owning everything that you've done. You got tied up in service to others instead of working on you. But I concur with our premise and what we are trying to accomplish with you and putting some conditions on you. So I concur with my colleagues. My vote is to grant with the special conditions that's already been indicated. Good luck to you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Let me just say, Ms. Dotrieve and Ms. Hollencheck, if you would, when we conclude this hearing, if you would stand by, we're going to put you in a private room so you can speak with our staff. We want to explain some things to you. Tracy, do you understand your conditions?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam
Mr. Johnson?
Chairman, Madam Chairman, would you please review those conditions? I think it's that important that we review those conditions and make them known to Ms. Beaucoudray before we end this hearing.
Yes, it's the out-of-state plan in Maryland with your sister, if that's approved. You'll have to have GPS monitoring, no access to the internet, no contact with juveniles, no contact with the victim or the victim's families, and submit to a mental health evaluation and comply with any treatment plan that may be recommended. You understand those conditions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you've been granted parole. That concludes. Mr. Johnson,
Just want to thank the board and tell Mr. Roche Skylar Marvin said hello. So,
okay.
one of his old students.
All right, thank you. This concludes our hearing. Thank you, Ms. Bauer, for accommodating. Ms. Hollencheck, Ms. Dotrieve, please stand by. Don't disconnect yet.
Thank you.
Oof. I just have to stare at him for way too long. Well, okay. So it was the first time in hundreds of hearings that I think I've actually seen them say, hey, the two victims, stay around. We want to talk to you. I congratulate them for that. I congratulate them for wanting to, Mr. Roche, for making sure that it was repeated. And I do understand what they did there. I do like the conditions. Ankle monitor, no internet. Pretty much, it's pretty much house arrest kind of. Although, how long? That's the question I don't understand. I think it's just for a period of her until she's released. So it's like a year or something. So you're just kicking the ball down the road. What we have here is a very, very dangerous cockroach, a very dangerous predator, a female teacher who is manipulating, controlling, conniving. You saw the smug face look that she made on her face when the mother was talking. This smug look. Remember the fact that there's no doubt in my mind she became a teacher just so she could position herself to be a predator. It's like, well, we're going to put conditions on you, but it's like, what is it? The conditions, you don't think she can wait it out? She became a teacher so she could have access to children. You think it's a big deal for her to wait it out for her period? It's not like, I don't really get it. Like, it's like, well, let's put her out on a leash so that we can, like, why not? I don't really get it. All that cost. I mean, hopefully the cost is passed on to her, please. But it's like, I just don't get it. So just keep her locked up. I guess it's cheaper than being locked up. I don't know. I'm confused about all this stuff. The bottom line, my rage goes to the judges that give these little sentences. There are certain sentences you have to send a message. You have to send a loud message. And that message, they make the court system does this all the time. They send out warning shots. They lock people up for doing small things for 20 years, 25 years. You could be, I've seen it, a high school football coach is not dealing to his students. He's dealing. The students have no idea. And then they'll send the message. They'll say, you can't be a high school football coach and also be dealing 25 years. And you're not going to do it to a middle school teacher? Who's going to protect our kids? Yeah. There are a bunch of articles, but they're all pretty much, they don't really pretty much say anything. Junior high school teacher accused of inappropriate contact with one of her former students, according to the Attorney General's office. A teacher of Boyette Junior High School in Slidell arrested Monday on allegations that she inappropriate contact with one of her former students. She was 34 years old at the time. 3 counts of indecent behavior with the juvenile. 1 count of aided solicitation of a minor. And the distributing delinquency. When the situation brought to our attention, we began an immediate investigation to remove this person from the school setting, the superintendent said. But that's pretty much all. It doesn't, Richard, we couldn't find anything that had any details because they just, I think, just wanted to all wipe it under the rug, really. Well, I suppose we can do another hearing here. Let's see. All right. Let's do this one. Yeah. Okay. This guy, I haven't seen it, so let's just see. Victor Jones. There's our cockroach, Jim Wise. Oof. Victor Jones and Jim Wise. I am not a fan of Jim Wise. I really don't like. Victor Jones has oh no.
This is a case for William Sechrist, DOC 716851. We have one participant here. It is Teresa Glisman, who is the mother who would like to speak.
Thank you very much. Sir, if you would, state your name and DOC number.
William Seacrest, DOC 716851.
Hold on 1 second, Ms. Seacrest. Okay, you are a second-class offender, carnal knowledge of a juvenile, sex offender, restoration violation. You were sentenced on 12/5/2016, revoked on 9/17/2018, and 1/18/2019. You were sentenced to 4 years DOC, 2 years DOC. On your parole date was 3/12/2020 with a good time, not eligible, full term of 8/21/2021. During the time you were charged with a sex offense, did you get another violation from probation and parole, or what happened?
I received a failure to register while I was on probation and parole, or probation. I was also accused of having pictures on my phone that indicated I had contacts with minors other than my sister's child, but that was not proven. The pictures on my phone were previous, before even my first arrest.
Okay. Did you have the knowledge, you had the knowledge you did not supposed to be on the telephone, and also on the failure to register as a sex offender? Why didn't you register as a sex offender?
I misunderstood the requirements for the registration. I thought instant messengers weren't going to be required for registration. I had my phone numbers registered, email addresses, but I didn't have the Facebook Messenger online identity.
Okay. What are some of the programs you've taken since you've been incarcerated?
I've taken the anger management class. I've taken and completed the 3 phase classes, the first 3 phase classes of the sex offender treatment. I have taken half of the test for phase 4 last week, and I plan to finish it tomorrow. I attended the AANA general membership. I was going to Toastmasters before COVID kicked in. I believe that's, yeah, those are the programs I've taken here.
I just want you to know there's very, very strong law enforcement opposition against this release for you. When was your last disciplinary write-up?
Never.
You've never had a disciplinary write-up?
No, sir.
Where are you at this time, Warden? Is anything you would like to say on behalf of Mr. Williams?
Well, Seacrest came away as a medical transfer back in March of 2019. Mr. Wise, he's been a model prisoner throughout his stay here. He has completed anger management he spoke of, and he completed 3 phases of sex offender treatment, as he told you, and he has tested for phase 4 and should be graduated from that phase of the treatment this week. He hasn't been any problems at this institution since he's been here. He's very cooperative with staff, follows all the rules, and is basically a model offender at this institution.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
At this time, Ms. Pearl Wise.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
I appreciate what the warden said, but I looked at your work evaluation, and the officer put down fair on everything. Your attitude, to relate to others and follow directions and everything. What's going on with that?
On a work evaluation, you said?
Yes, sir. On your work. Yes, sir. It was completed on August the 11th of 2020.
I can answer that, Ms. Wise. He's been assigned to he had duty status for most of the time he's been here due to his health issues he was dealing with. He was recently reassigned to crew 1, and that's a field crew. He got assigned to in August of this year and they really haven't worked due to several reasons, staffing issues and the COVID quarantine, those things. So his supervisor really hasn't had the opportunity to supervise him, and I think he just checked fair. I think who did that, Colonel Oliver?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Colonel
Okay, good.
He just checked fair, and he should have put a comment on there saying he really had very limited interaction with this offender, but he has had very limited interaction with this offender. And I wouldn't think that would be a fair evaluation of his attitude, because he has a good attitude. He just hasn't had a job assignment basically since he's been here for reasons other than his own fault. All right, we're good. We're good. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that stood out. Mr. Wise has pretty much covered everything else. I do want to inform you, sir, that probation parole reached out to the victim, and I do want you to know that one of your victims is unopposed to your early release. But now she do encourage you to leave young girls alone. She did state that. Leave young girls alone.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
all I had, Chair.
Okay, at this time, Mr. Jones.
Good morning. How you doing, sir?
Pretty good.
Good. At this time, I don't have any questions for you. No, at this time.
At this time, I see the grandmother would like to speak at this time, ma'am. Anything you'd like to say?
It's actually his mother. Sorry.
Okay.
That's okay. That's one of the things I want to bring up. Since William's been incarcerated, he's lost his grandmother, his only grandmother he's ever known. She passed away ago. He's missed the birth of his nephew. He's missed birthdays that are relevant to his nieces that are 3, 4, 5 years old. He is not a pedophile. I've sat through everything this morning, and I'm not going to lie to you. I had a hard time with the first one. I have a daughter. I have granddaughters. He's not a pedophile. He has misjudgment in that respect, and he's grown. He has thought clearly that he never thought before. He understands everything he was accused of and found guilty of. He understands it. He realizes where his mistakes are and understands the consequences. It's not going backwards. He has, as the warden said, has been a model citizen in there. He also suffered from cancer. He had testicular cancer while he was there. And he went through that without a parent, a friend, nobody was there with him. I was not allowed. He almost lost his aunt during this thing due to breast cancer. He is not a pedophile. His sister-in-law, and stepbrother are fine with him being around the children. They are not concerned. He is not that. And what has he been doing up there while he's been in quarantine and up there? Playing Dungeons and Dragons, sir. Dungeons and Dragons. My husband said he's the only one he knows who can go to a nerd prison and do Dungeons and Dragons. All the things they could be doing there, the fighting. He's helping other prisoners. He asked me to look stuff up for them for the Dungeons and Dragons so they can pick their characters. This is not a bad person. He has grown more than I can tell you. I am very proud of the man he has become, his understanding of things, and I miss him like you can't imagine, because I couldn't be there for him during his cancer. And yes, he realized his decisions that put him there. He is well aware of this. He's not denying. He has learned, and not everybody can say they've learned. I look at the 3 cases before him. This was his first offense. Yes, he had instant messenger. It was one thing. You did everything else he was supposed to for probation. He went to all the meetings. He went and did his community service. He stayed away from anything and everything he was told to stay away from. He stayed locked in the house on Halloween. Doors, lights, everything out. He did everything. It was one thing that, yes, was a mistake, and he realizes it, but he did everything else he was told to do. And he was always polite to the probation officers that came to our house. Open the door. We put our dogs up, walk around the whole house. They weren't confined. He did everything his probation officers asked. So I'm confused as to why they are so dead set against it. He's not a bad person. He's a good person. His father was sick most of his life. This is the man he had to become. He had to grow up to help me while I worked 2 jobs while his father was dying. And 2 weeks after he left for college, his father passed. He has been more of a man than you realize. And yes, he's made mistakes. He's a good person. And he deserves a second chance. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
At this time, I recommend executive session to discuss confidential matters related to this case.
Okay, I'll second.
Ms. Pearl,
At this time, we,
Yes,
Mr. Wise,
yes,
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
All I gotta say is, thank goodness we haven't had to watch hearings with Miss Wise, Mr. Wise, and Mr. Jones, because these are torturous. It's like you wouldn't even know what happened from the hearing. It's just, hey, you have any comments? No, I don't want to say anything. Okay, let the victim's mother speak. And not the victim's mother, the perpetrator's mother, who frankly seems to be quite an enabler. Look, this isn't as bad as other cases that we have seen. He was 23 years old and she was 16. It seemed that he had gotten probation and then he was revoked. I don't believe for a second that he knew exactly what he was doing with his messenger. He tried to get away with it and he was caught. Now, are they going to release him? I don't know what they will do. What they say about there are like different classes of cockroaches, and I've said this multiple times already, so maybe a broken record, but Chris Hansen says there's like 3 types, and there's the pedophile. Oh, okay. Oh man.
we can hear you, Mr. Wise.
Use your mic, Jim.
at this time, Mr. Seeger, anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
The only thing I can think to say is I do feel bad about what I've done. I understand that I've hurt people. I don't want to hurt anybody anymore. I do wish I could take it back, and hindsight's 20/20. But I have to, like my mother said, I know that I have to take what I've done, take responsibility, and move forward. And that's exactly what I plan to do.
Okay. At this time, the board will be voting. This was my case, and I'll be voting first. This time, I'm going to vote to grant you parole after your completion of your sex offender treatment program, phase 4. Also, you have a good program and good comments from the warden. And that's my vote. At this time, Ms. Pearl Wise.
Young man, I want you to know I'm very concerned about you. Only because of something on Facebook is the reason why you're here. And as has already been stated, you didn't understand the seriousness of your offense. Although there was some mention that you have a prior knowledge of a juvenile. This ain't your first rodeo, you're a second offender, but I couldn't find it in the record. I am willing to take a chance on you today. I'm going to agree with my colleague, Mr. Wise. My vote is to grant. And one of the reasons because your victim is unopposed. You will have to follow the conditions of supervision. You're going to be right back where you started with the parole officer doing this with the same conditions. So don't come back now. You hear?
Yes, ma'am.
My vote is to grant.
Mr. Jones.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Okay. I'm gonna vote with my colleagues. I concur with them, and for the same reasons, same conditions, that you complete this stage 4. And good luck to you. And like Ms. Wise said, hope not to see you again under these circumstances.
Thank you very much.
And that is your vote. Thank you very much.
Is that it, Mr. Wise, on this case?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
At this time, if that's all we have today, is that all we have at David Wade?
Yes, sir, that's go ahead.
Well, as I was just finished saying, it could be there are 3 different types. There's some that what Chris Hansen would consider Romeo and Juliet. He's 23, she's 16, she's about to turn 17. He just turned 23. They went to, it's just not as like a pedophile. And then it comes out at the end of the hearing that this is his second offense. Ms. Wise just throws it, and she's like, well, it was some indication on the record that this is your second offense, but it's not on my record, so we'll let it go. And it's like, wow, that's really thorough, Ms. Wise. You're really keeping our society safe. Good on you, man. You're doing a great job. This is a pathetic board. You can see they're all checked out. They're all like, oh yeah, I'll concur with my, they went for a session, an executive session, and then they come back and it's still like their cameras aren't coming on, their mute's not on. It's like, how difficult would that? You just went into an executive session, you coming back and you deliberate, and it's like they all are like doing like 8 things at once. It's just a pathetic case. He's pretending that Facebook, he didn't know. And of course he knew. He just didn't think he'd get caught. Good on them for catching him. Found it quite funny that, he's not allowed on Halloween, which is true because they can put masks on. So sex offenders are not allowed out on Halloween, which is great. And then, I don't know, I guess you can call it karma that he got testicular cancer at that young age in prison. That's, if that's not karma, then I don't know what is. The victim's not opposed, but stay away from young girls. So that shows that she understands that she was groomed and she was abused and she was a victim, that she would even say that, but stay away. So no, he's not just some little kid that is like playing Dungeons and Dragons. The mother's like, he's not a bad kid. Well, maybe he's not a bad guy. He's just a cockroach with apparently green tape on his glasses, which is quite a look. He's quite a guy over there. But they let him out. So what can you do? It's more concerning about it. That's the second time, and he keeps getting away with it, even after getting revoked. It makes you wonder if he's just gonna get better at hiding it, and it's I don't know. It's scary if you ask me. All right. Well, we can do one more. Call it a day because I have to go. Okay.
All right, we're ready for the case.
Hello?
This is the case for Misty Guillot, DOC 560253. We have Matthew Guillot, who's a son who would like to speak. And we have Paul Tate, who's the attorney who would like to speak.
Okay. All right, please introduce yourself, state your name and DOC number for the record.
Misty Guillot, 560253.
Misty, my name is Brennan Kelsey. Along with me is Mr. Tony Marabella, Mr. Victor Jones. We're a parole panel for you today. I'll explain the process to you. We'll read some information to the record, have a parole interview, ask you some questions. You can respond. At the end, you can make a statement. We'll take a vote. You understand the process?
Yes, sir, I do.
Mr. Guillot, DOC number 560253, second class offender. Parole eligibility date 3/27/2019, not eligible for good time. Full term 3/27/2023, 8-year sentence. Criminal knowledge of a juvenile, distant behavior with a juvenile, distribution of one, cruelty to juvenile, theft of goods 750 or more, but less than 1,500. Sentenced on 7/10/2014, revoked on 7/11/2018. And you were sentenced on 3/3/2016, revoked on 7/27/2018. That sound correct? You were sent, yeah, it's just you. Does that sound correct?
Yes, sir, it does.
How long have you been currently incarcerated?
On the revocation?
How long have you, that's right. So you were revoked in 2018, right?
Yes, sir.
And so you've been in jail for how long since then?
Almost 3 years.
Okay. And before that, were you on probation or were you incarcerated when you got revoked?
I was incarcerated and then I got out and then I got revoked.
Right. How long were you incarcerated for that time?
3 years.
So you got out and you
Yes,
got
sir.
revoked because you didn't register, you moved. Tell me what happened.
I met a guy and we got married and we eloped. And when we got back home to his family home where we were to live at, his mother would not let me register there. So I became homeless. I had no place to go. And they revoked me because I could not register. But I didn't go out and commit any crimes to come back to jail.
Right, but I mean, wouldn't you think that'd be something you kind of check out before you went and did it?
Right, but I was under the impression through his family, because they seemed accepting, that, you know, that I could register there, that I could live there. But I did not realize that his mother was angry. You know, she was angry because we eloped and we didn't have a big wedding and all of this and didn't involve her. So she would not let me register.
You eloped somewhere close? You went away from somewhere?
We just went to New Orleans and we got married on the riverfront and we came back home the next day.
So what's the current status of that relationship now?
He's drifted away, you know, from me being away for so many years.
So y'all divorced?
No, sir. We're still married.
But not talking?
I have not spoke to him in over a year. Last I heard, he had a girlfriend.
Sure, like I said, you know, those are, you know, I get it. That's a bad situation, but those are things that, you know, when you get out with the charges that you have, with the issues that you have, that, I mean, look, that's significant. Those are things that you need to have in place. You can't just think that somebody's accepting or think. I mean, you have to have those things nailed down. I mean, that's the way it's going to be for a little while with you. You've got to, you know, to register as a sex offender. Those are significant. I mean, those are things you have to have done. So tell me when your last disciplinary write-up was.
Well, I got a write-up. I've never had write-ups, but I got a write-up recently for a misunderstanding. I was in the kitchen and I work, and whenever I don't work in the kitchen, I'm a gardener here,
But we went in to get our trays, and as soon as I got my tray, the lady said, "Oh, you can't take them." So we sat at the table to eat, and I was in a conversation with my coworker, and I ate, and we were having a conversation, and a kitchen worker went and told the guard that I said an ugly name towards her, and I didn't, and I was not even aware I had a write-up. A week later, they come and they lock me up, and they tell me I have a write-up. But when I got out, they let me keep my job and everything. I've
So you
been
got,
putting in
so
some
once you get
work.
locked up, you went on lockdown for a little while?
Yes, sir,
How long?
for 10 days.
Miss April, can you clarify any of that?
She received. I found this one. She received a write-up on October 8th for defiance. It was referred to regional, but she does not receive good time, so regional does not hear those write-ups. So her sanction was 10 days in admin seg.
Thank you. So tell me, what have you been doing? What classes have you been taking? What have you been doing?
Yes, sir. I've took every class available to me. I took anger management, reentry, substance abuse. I was in Celebrate Recovery when COVID hit. So I was 6 months in, and I was not able to finish it. I did moral recognition therapy. I did a begin recovery program. I did money management program. And I knew I didn't get credits for any of these classes, but I went ahead and took them to better myself.
So the
You know?
first time you were in jail, did you take sex offender treatment class?
No, sir, I didn't.
You never have?
But I have now. I have graduated the
So you took
program.
all 4 phases.
All 4 phases, yes, sir.
You complete them there where you are currently?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, that's good.
I took the opportunity to try, to better myself. Because I don't want to be the person that I used to be.
So what are your plans if you were to be released early? Where are you gonna go? What you gonna do?
Well, my grandmother, she's old. She's in her late 80s, and she really needs me to care for her. So I'm going to go to my grandmother's house and take care of her. My mother also has cancer. So my plans are to take care of my family and then try and get a job and, support them in whatever way I can. While I was at St. Gabriel, before I got released last time, I acquired horticulture license through Louisiana Ag Center.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a landscape contractor's degree and a Louisiana State arborist. So I plan on trying to get me some equipment available and start me a business.
Good. Do you so you have a GED or you have high school diploma?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I do.
Which one?
I have a GED.
You get it while you were incarcerated last time?
Yes, sir, I did. And I also was enrolled in BRCC, Baton Rouge Community College, but I got released before my I had 1 semester left to graduate.
Have you taken living in balance?
Yes, sir.
You've been working hard.
Yes, sir, I have. Really hard. And I work here at the facility. I've had a steady job for almost 2 years.
What do you do?
I'm a horticulturist, the head horticulturist here. I just opened the greenhouse. And we're trying to get, plants and stuff for the compound and trying to make things better. Everybody's down with the COVID. So, my job kept going. So I kept working and trying to strive for better.
So you have law enforcement opposition, nothing you can do about it. You have DA opposition. I mean, you do have opposition to your early release, and you do know that you have a high reassessment, reoffending score. Do you know that?
No, sir, I do not.
It's called a high tiger, and they put all the information in and make a determination about the possibility of you reoffending. You fall in a high, medium, low, medium, or high. Currently, you have a high risk assessment score. Just something for you to know. Miss April, you have any other input for us?
No, sir.
Thank you. All right, would you answer, I don't have any more questions. Would you answer Mr. Marabella, please?
Yes, sir. I can't.
Got the mute.
Ms. Guillot,
Yes, sir.
tell me why you were revoked and you're in prison currently?
Because I got married, and whenever I came back home to the house that me and my husband were supposed to occupy, his mother would not let me register.
I heard that part. The judge revoked you, but he also revoked you because you did not complete or got kicked out of your sex offender programs for non-compliance. Why is that?
Well, I guess I missed it. I did not.
Did you realize that a condition of your probation was that you go to sex offender treatment?
Yes, sir, and had never missed a class before.
Well, why is it that you got kicked out?
For missing a class.
What about this cruelty to a juvenile charge you had back in 2014? What was that about?
My son, Matthew, that's gonna speak today. I don't remember what happened, but I was on drugs and he came over and supposedly I gave him some weed.
Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Hello?
This is
Yeah.
Paul.
No, sir,
I'm having
what's your name? Paul, excuse me?
Paul Tate. I was the attorney that represented her, and
right.
I'm
Mr.
unfamiliar with Zoom.
Okay, we're gonna let you have an opportunity to speak. I'll
All
let
right.
you know when you can speak. Go ahead, Mr. Marabella, finish.
All right. Tell me about your drug use.
It was pretty heavy.
And what have you done to be able to stay off of drugs now?
I've just walked away. I mean, whenever I got out of prison, I didn't go back to drugs. I passed my drug test for my parole officers. I stopped hanging around with the people I was hanging around with.
What kind of drugs were you using?
I was using methamphetamine and marijuana.
How often?
And a lot of alcohol.
How often?
Marijuana, I was smoking pretty much every day. Methamphetamine, maybe once a month, twice a month. Drinking, I was doing that pretty heavily, probably at least 3 nights a week.
And when did you ultimately quit doing drugs and drinking? Or do you drink still?
No, sir. No, sir.
When did you quit?
When I went to prison and when
was that?
That was in 2014.
Do you go to AA meetings when you're outside?
No, sir, because I didn't know of any that were available in the small town that I live in.
Those are all the questions I have. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Victor Jones?
Ms. Guillot,
Yes, sir.
good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm making it.
What did you say about your substance abuse treatment? You've had substance abuse
Yes, sir.
and you went all 4 phases?
I went through all 4 phases of the sex offender treatment program.
Sex offender, okay.
Yes,
How about
sir.
substance abuse?
I took substance abuse, what they offer.
Did you complete it?
Yes, sir, I did.
Have you ever had any substance abuse treatment on the outside before you were
Yes, sir.
incarcerated?
Yes, sir. After my incarceration?
Yes, after the incarceration.
No, sir, I haven't. Because see, I didn't know that we had AA meetings in the small town. I didn't know where they were, other than there's a treatment facility in our town, but I didn't know if they offered meetings or not. So I never went to any.
Yeah. Would you be willing to go to AA?
Yes, sir, I would.
how long you think you would need to go to AA?
Well, addiction's never actually cured. So I think a person has to go for a very long time.
I don't have any other questions.
All right. Now we'll hear from Matthew. Good, Matthew.
How are y'all doing this evening? My mother, she's done a lot of terrible things in her past, but I know that these last 2 sentences have changed her throughout the course, and I feel as though if she were to be paroled out, because she should be staying, if paroled out, at the house that I own, and it's with my great grandmother. I feel as though that she'll be kept in a safer environment where there's no drugs, alcohol, not even tobacco, even anything like that. I feel as though she has rehabilitated herself, and me personally would make sure that she would do her best to get to the AA meetings, stay straight, and to her best ability, walk a straight line.
Thank you for your support.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Paul Tate, would you like to make a statement? You can push your mute button and make a statement. Okay, take the mute off. You have to take the mute button off. Yeah, there's a mute button somewhere.
Okay, okay, I found
ahead.
it.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I represented Misti, and it was she got revoked. One, from what I understand, absconding, but at the time, absconding was leaving the state without permission. She never left the state, but she really ran into a string of bad luck. She was sitting with an elderly, not an elderly, I'm sorry, a lady who was paralyzed. And there was also another woman in the house who was, literally having an affair with the paralyzed woman's husband. And she got jealous of Misti and refused to allow Misti to stay there. So Misti then got a trailer about 3 or 4 miles from there where she could still sit with the lady. But that lady's trailer got seized, and she couldn't rent it to Misti. That's when Misti went to live with a lady in Shreveport. The lady, she was engaged to the lady's son. She moved up there because the son said, "Come live with me." When the mother realized that they weren't married, she refused to let them live together there. So that's when she went to, they eloped and went to New Orleans and got married. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is the one class that she missed. She was communicating constantly with her probation officer or parole officer, but he did not have a place to go visit her. And there's a provision in the law for homeless people. They have to register like every 14 days or something with the sheriff of whatever parish they're in. Nobody ever advised Misti of that. The probation officer on the stand was not even aware of that provision. She just got a raw deal. And I know we don't have to get into the nature of the offense, but the original offense, but she was trying the best she could to comply with everything. She missed the one meeting because she was getting married out of town in New Orleans, and she just had a hard time finding a place to live. And it's just a shame that the probation officer never really understood that homeless people can still register, and that she was in constant contact with him, although he could not visit her. It was just, she tried. I know she tried. I was there. And I was unaware of the homeless provision in the statutes also. And then she just got revoked, she was trying, and I know that if she gets out, the drinking is probably what got her in most trouble in a situation that was hard to explain. But I know that when she gets out, she will continue to try to follow the rules, and but she has to know the rules. And I know ignorance of the law is no excuse, but nobody ever told her about this ability of a homeless person to continue registering like every 14 days. When she gets out this time, I have no doubt in my mind that she'll fly right.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tate. All right. All right, Misty, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Yes, sir, I would.
Go ahead.
Dear members of the board, I come to you today with a humble heart. I am ashamed of the person I was. I understand that my actions have affected many people. For that, I take full responsibility. And I express deep remorse. I must tell you that the person who entered prison all those years ago is not the person who stands before you today. Since my incarceration, I have made the decision to better myself in all aspects of my life. I took every class that was offered to me, even though I was made aware that none of them would give me good time or credits. I did that in order to be a better person and to learn new and better ways to deal with life. I need the opportunity to become a productive member of society. I strive to be the mother, the daughter, the granddaughter, and the grandmother that I should have been long ago. My mother is very ill, and my grandmother needs me to care for her as well. Please have mercy on me and grant me this chance I so desperately need. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the panel prepared to vote?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Misty, go ahead and put yourself on mute, Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mute.
I'm not.
There you go. Misty, again, going through your case, listen to you right. You've done a lot. You're doing a lot. You're continuing to do a lot there. There are, a couple things that are concerning to me, and obviously your poor supervision, the fact you have a high tiger, but, as a parole board member, regardless of what your reasons are, you have to stay right up free for a year. I mean, you're well aware of that. You knew that when you came in here. Everybody that's in it's aware that that's a practice that we continue to follow, that we expect people to be right up free, and listen, I don't know the specifics. I know that it was a write-up. I know that you found guilty. I know that you were 10 days down. You don't have any good time, right? So that was that. So those are problems for me. Your background is outstanding. Doing the sex offender treatment was outstanding. You needed to do that. You have taken, you're right, every course that you can. You have a great situation. Looks like you have, a lot of, passports. Your son came on, spoke for you. You do have some home support. You're moving forward. You're horticulturist. All those the different things, which will be helpful. But for me, I can't support you today because of the disciplinary write-up that you had just a few months back. That's a problem, and that's consistent with every time that I voted. That's just how it is. You have a high tiger score. You have a poor supervision. I get it. There are all kind of things when it comes to supervision, but you are considered a sex offender. You have to be on your P's and Q's. You can't just get out there and just do whatever, willy-willy. You got to be specific. You got to know what you need to do and how you need to do it. You can't, look, I'm not saying you can't have a boyfriend or a husband, but you can't just get out and fall in love and just go away. and then come back and think everything's gonna be fine. And I get it, it's a mistake. So had you not had the disciplinary write-up too, it would be a lot easier for me today. But today, I'm gonna have to deny you parole because of the disciplinary write-up, because of your high Tiger score, your law enforcement opposition, and your poor supervision. I think that if you come back and you have no write-ups, the next time I think you be pretty easy, might be able to get through. But today, that's gonna be a problem for me, so I'm voting for deny. Mr. Tony, Marabella.
Thank you very much. Ms. Guillot, I've listened very intently to what you've had to say. I have several concerns. One of the biggest concerns, as Mr. Kelsey has pointed out, is that write-up. But I've got a few other concerns as well. Your criminal history obviously is a concern to me, and your poor supervision is a concern to me. And I've listened to your attorney, what he had to say about why you got revoked. And I know you were in a jurisdiction, the 13th JDC. I'm not that familiar with that jurisdiction, but I was a judge for a lot of years, and I had a lot of people before me. And it's my experience that, generally speaking, even with a sex offender, if all they didn't do was register and they had a reasonable explanation for that, they generally didn't get revoked and sent to prison. So I suspect there may have been more to this than just that. But I'll accept that for what you say. It bothers me that you tell me you've quit doing drugs, you've quit drinking. Obviously, according to Mr. Tate, apparently your problem was not so much drugs as it was alcohol. I believe that you need more substance abuse treatment, more AA meetings, learn the program of AA, do the AA programs. At this particular time, I would be on the fence if it wouldn't be for that write-up. I'll be honest with you. I would try to figure out what I would do in terms of releasing you with certain conditions that I believe you could follow. But because of that write-up, I'm not in a position to vote to grant your parole. But I am in a position to tell you that if you continue to work hard and come back to this board, and if I'm on it with a plan, with your AA meetings and that sort of thing, I would certainly grant your parole at that time. But we do have a policy that if you get a write-up within a year, it's just a general policy. It's not a law. It's just something that we generally follow. And that's the reason why I'd be denying your parole today.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Jones.
Let's get it. My vote today can be to deny also for the reasons that's already been stated.
All right, you have 3 votes to deny your parole today. Your parole's been denied. And we will adjourn at 9:58 LTCW. Thank y'all.
It's funny, but fast forward 2 years, they don't even take the hearings.
Is that it?
Oh my God, that attorney. Is that
it? Hello?
That's it, you moron. I'm sorry, but that is a perfect ending to this hearing. That attorney, what a clown. If his tactic was to just confuse everyone, it kind of worked. They were right in the middle of a question where they said, what did you get that, what was it, abuse of a child or something for when she's like, I gave pot to my son. And then the attorney came on, I don't know what's going on. And then he gave this rambling story that was so incoherent and all over the place that I don't think anyone really knew what was going on. And it was a really bad thing to go and mess around with saying, oh, and the court did this and the paroles didn't know that. It's like, don't take that approach with the board. And either you get what you pay for, or she should get her money back. But that was one of the worst representations that I've seen from an attorney. We've seen worse. That was one of the worst. It's funny how she turned her waterworks on when at the end with the speech, she like put on this whole act. It's the classic Chomo thing. But we've seen a lot today right now at these hearings, and they range. But they all have something in common, except she had a write-up, which is very, very, very rare. We don't know what she did because they don't cover it. We don't really know what her crimes are, but She needs to learn to be an adult. You know, her whole story about why she failed to do it is just, you know, she's being a child. And if anything, she needs to be a mother for her son. And you can see her son just looks, you know, it's just like, you know, I'm just projecting is the right word, but I'm just taking a guess for him. It's like he's been dealing with this his whole life, but and you gotta feel bad for him. But with that, I'll let you go.